The city of Virginia Beach is not doing enough to help women and minorities start businesses. That's the conclusion of a year-long study released to City Council tonight. It shows out of $1 billion in city contracts, minority-owned businesses only got 18% of the pie. We also saw a breakdown of the numbers. You see here, businesses owned by white women receiving 8% of contracts. Robert Boyd explains where they go from here.
Well, David, today's announcement was a long time in coming for NFL Hall of Famer Bruce Smith. He was one of the main catalysts to demand this study, and now he hopes it will create a level playing field for minorities and women.
This is a great day for women, minority, and small businesses.
Bruce Smith said he knows all too well how difficult it can be to start a business in Virginia Beach as a minority. Back in 2016, he had an oceanfront venture of his own that was unsuccessful.
I had to step back and realize that there was a bigger problem than me.
Tuesday, that bigger problem was highlighted before City Council as BBC Research and Consulting released their findings from the past year.
So Black American-owned businesses, Hispanic American-owned businesses, Native American-owned businesses, and non-Hispanic white woman-owned businesses are all substantially underutilized relative to each group's own availability.
According to the study, between July 2012 and June 2017, the city did $1.2 billion in contracts. Only $221.8 million of it, or 18.9%, went to women and minorities. BBC Research and Consulting said that percentage should be closer to 25%. The consulting firm then explained why the city is falling short.
Often, minority and women-owned businesses become discouraged with the process, either because it's really time-consuming, because requirements are difficult.
So it's being recommended that Virginia Beach do a better job of making the contract process less challenging, as well as creating more race and gender-based goals when it comes to awarding contracts.
Now, the real work begins, a conscious effort to improve women and minorities and small businesses in the contracting process.
Now, next month, BBC Research and Consulting is expected to deliver the final version of their study with a more detailed list of recommendations. In the studio, Robert Boyd, 13 News Now.
The owner of a Virginia Beach investment firm pleads guilty to a $6 million Ponzi scheme. Edward Moody Jr. was an investment advisor and owner of CM Capital Management. The feds say Moody collected millions from people over the course of 13 years. Some of the victims were elderly and liquidated their retirement accounts. They thought Moody would invest their money. In most cases, Moody spent the money to buy a house, a car, and to go on vacations. He faces up to 30 years when he's sentenced in February. New information tonight on a threat made against Smithfield High School. The sheriff's office says 18-year-old Paul Emerson is in jail facing charges. Emerson is a student at Smithfield High. He's being held without bond tonight. We're told investigators found an AR-15 rifle in the home when Emerson was taken into custody this afternoon. 51-year-old Melissa Jacuzzi is also charged with obstruction of justice in this case. The sheriff's office stepped in after several students reported seeing a threat on social media. There was also a scare at Lansdowne High School in Virginia Beach. A student was charged with disturbing the peace after allegedly making a bomb threat on a school bus. Here's part of the message that went out to parents this morning.
In an abundance of caution, we did evacuate part of the school for police to complete a search. However, our building was quickly cleared and we resumed instruction as normal.
After an investigation, nothing was found that suggests the student was actually going to carry out the threat. This is the second time in a month a threat was made involving Lansdowne High School. A Hampton man is accused of making bomb threats to divert authorities while he robbed a credit union. According to the indictment, 31-year-old Oscar Alston made several threats to buildings in Hampton and Newport News. Courthouses, hotels, and a YMCA were said to be on his list. While police and fire were responding to the threats, Alston robbed the Virginia Educators Credit Union at gunpoint. Police caught him. 20 minutes later, if convicted, he could get life in prison. Sad news today in the aftermath of that house explosion in Chesapeake. Fire officials say one person who was pulled from the burning home passed away last night. Neighbors devastated by the news.
I had such trouble this morning just hearing that news that, she's not with us, because I wish I could have done more. I really wish I saved her.
He lived next door to the house that exploded on Laferno Road on Sunday night. Investigators are still trying to figure out what caused the gas explosion. But tonight, neighbors are trying to comfort each other. Megan Puryear has that story.
David, one person is still in the hospital tonight because of that gas explosion. Now, today we spoke again with the neighbor who ran into the fire to save his neighbors. 2 days after the explosion, he's still shaken up.
Faith is the assurance that what God has said in his words is true and that God will act accordingly. This confidence is faith.
Joseph Gandia is holding faith close to his heart after this singed piece of paper blew into his yard Tuesday.
Maybe this is Miss Faith, telling us that she's gonna be okay.
Gandia says the page blew over from the rubble that was his neighbor Faith's home.
And she's with God now, and God's gonna take care of her.
The last time Gandia was in Faith's house was Sunday night when it was engulfed in flames after a gas explosion.
I wish I could have done more. I really wish I saved her. I wanted her to live.
He was there pulling Faith out of the rubble and fire. Faith passed away Monday night.
Feel real guilty. Feel guilty that, I didn't save her.
Not only did Gandia get Faith out, but he also got his family of 4 out too when their home caught on fire.
This is our living room, and this is a lot of what we were able to salvage in here.
Insulation hangs like pink clouds from holes in the ceiling, the snow-like fluff littering the ground and their belongings.
Yeah, this kind of tells you what we're left with.
The meat Gandia was cooking still waits prepared on the oven.
This is where I was standing, right here, when the explosion happened.
Gandia's house is condemned. His family's belongings are destroyed.
It's going to take a while for get back on his feet, but anything, if the smallest donation doesn't have to be monetary. I got a whole car, full of little bags of, things for my kids to eat, and that goes just as much as $1 to me.
He's not sure what will happen next, but for now, he has faith.
Sure enough, it has Miss Faith's name. Her real name was Faith. And I don't know, that's just, the message kind of relates to what we're going through that was on the passage. The one word that standing out on that piece of paper was faith.
Again, the Gandia family lost everything in this process, including their home. If you want to help them, we have a link on their GoFundMe page on our website at 13newsnow.com. I'm Megan Puryear, 13 News Now.
Just in, a man who was shot last night in Hampton has died. Police identified him as 20-year-old Jacoby Benny. He was shot several times last night on Kecoughtan Road. Police tell us they still have no suspect information in this case. Hampton police have, however, identified their suspect in a different shooting. Police say their suspect is this man, Dante Lamont McDaniel. He's accused of shooting a man after an argument last week on Golden Gate Drive near Nickerson Boulevard. The man's injuries are serious. McDaniel is still at large tonight. Tonight, America's top diplomat, Mike Pompeo, is in Saudi Arabia. The Secretary of State is asking the royal family what they know about the disappearance of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi, as government officials weigh the implication should it be confirmed that Saudi officials were behind it. ABC's Lana Zak has the latest in Washington.
An international crisis is brewing in Saudi Arabia after Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi vanished from the Saudi consulate in Turkey.
What I would do, I know what I'm going to do. We're going to sanction the hell out of Saudi Arabia.
In Turkey, investigators searched for clues in Khashoggi's disappearance. Vice President Pence hinting that the U.S. could become involved if it turns out that a hit squad dispatched from Saudi Arabia was behind Khashoggi's death.
Any act of violence that claims a life is to be condemned. But this was also an assault on a free and independent press.
President Trump, however, seemed to take the Saudi denial at face value.
The king firmly denied any knowledge of it. He didn't really know.
Dispatching Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to meet with the royal family.
I thank you for hosting me.
And now the president is responding to critics that have questioned his financial ties to the Saudi royal family, calling that fake news and tweeting, "I have no financial interest in Saudi Arabia." But on the campaign trail, Mr. Trump bragged about their investments.
Saudi Arabia, and I get along great with all of them. They buy apartments from me. They spend $40 million, $50 million. Am I supposed to dislike them? I like them very much.
Now, there had been reports that the Saudis intended to take some level of responsibility for Khashoggi's disappearance, perhaps as an interrogation gone awry. But Secretary of State Mike Pompeo now says that in his meetings, Saudi officials denied any knowledge of Khashoggi's whereabouts and instead pledged a thorough investigation. Lana Zak, ABC News, Washington.
Disturbing testimony in court today. This is the case of the couple charged in the death of a 2-year-old girl in Norfolk. Today, a judge ruled there is enough evidence for the case against John Tucker Hardy and Shelby Love to move forward. In court, we saw pictures from the night little Harley was burned by scalding water. Officers describing Harley's condition in horrific detail. Attorneys for the couple made arguments to get rid of those charges, but the judge ruled against them. Tomorrow, we're expecting more developments in another deadly case of abuse we're following in Norfolk. Latoya Smith, the woman charged in the brutal death of her 11-year-old daughter, Heaven Watkins, is expected in court. The Norfolk Commonwealth's Attorney's Office tells us Smith will enter a guilty plea.